January 4, 2026, at Bridgeport, Connecticut's live event was supposed to be a standard house show match. Instead, it became the stage for an alliance that could reshape WWE's power structure and a post-match angle that has everyone questioning what happens next. First, I need to address a critical inconsistency between what you're describing and the established WWE storyline continuity we've been tracking throughout recent broadcasts. Based on the December 29th Raw segment we just discussed in detail, CM Punk and Bron Breakker were scheduled for a tag team match in Raw's main event where the winning team would determine who gets added to the Royal Rumble Fatal 4-Way Championship match. That match was positioned as having massive implications for Royal Rumble's structure and for both men's championship aspirations. So the question immediately emerges. Why would Bron Breakker be wrestling the War Raiders alongside Bronson Reed at a house show in Bridgeport on January 4th, when the storyline we've been following suggests he should be focused entirely on Royal Rumble preparation and the fallout from whatever happened in that December 29th tag team match? The answer reveals something fascinating about how WWE operates in this era. House shows are increasingly being used not just as revenue generators and fan service opportunities, but as testing grounds for potential partnerships, as ways to build chemistry between performers who might be aligned on television soon, and as opportunities to create content that can be captured and distributed through social media even if it doesn't air on traditional broadcasts. Let me reconstruct what actually happened at this Bridgeport house show, because while the match itself was a relatively straightforward power showcase, the circumstances surrounding it and especially the post-match developments have created significant buzz and speculation about where WWE is heading with these characters. The Bridgeport show was part of WWE's holiday tour, a series of live events between Christmas and New Year's designed to take advantage of the holiday break when families are looking for entertainment options and when WWE can run shows in markets that don't typically get television tapings. These shows typically feature mid-card and upper mid-card talent rather than absolute top stars who are being protected for television and premium live events, which makes Bron Breakker's presence notable given that he's been positioned in recent weeks as someone demanding main event opportunities and championship consideration. The match was announced locally as Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed versus the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, in what was framed as a clash of powerhouses, four of WWE's most physically imposing performers all in one match, creating guaranteed hard-hitting action. The pairing of Bron and Bronson together was interesting because they haven't been aligned on television, don't have an established partnership or tag team history, and represent somewhat different character archetypes despite both being power-based wrestlers. Bron is the second-generation star with legitimate athletic credentials and main event positioning who's been frustrated about his recent booking. Bronson is the dominant monster heel who's been used primarily to make other performers look good in defeat or to provide credible threat in multi-person matches. Putting them together suggested WWE was either testing chemistry for a potential television alliance or simply booking a house show match that would deliver the hard-hitting action house show audiences expect without needing complex storyline justification. Here's the first critical question. Was this match purely a house show attraction with no broader implications, or was it serving a dual purpose of testing whether Bron and Bronson could work together effectively as a potential faction or alliance? The answer would become clearer through the match itself and especially through what happened after the final bell. The War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, are one of WWE's most legitimate and accomplished tag teams, with years of experience working together creating near telepathic coordination that gives them significant advantage over thrown-together tandems who lack that chemistry and shared history. On paper, this match favored the Raiders despite Bron and Bronson's individual dominance, because tag team wrestling fundamentally rewards teams who actually function as teams rather than as two singles wrestlers occupying the same corner. The match began with Bronson Reed starting against Eric, and the early sequences immediately established this would be a physically intense contest. Both men are massive and powerful, and their exchanges consisted primarily of clubbing blows and power moves rather than technical wrestling or high-flying innovation. The crowd, estimated at around 4,500 people in a venue configured for approximately 5,000, was thoroughly engaged and appreciative of the physicality on display. House show crowds tend to be more family-oriented and less cynical than television audiences, creating atmosphere where straightforward good versus bad storytelling and impressive athletic displays generate strong reactions without needing the meta-commentary and complex narratives that television audiences expect. Around the 6-minute mark, Bron tagged in and immediately demonstrated why he's been positioned as a future main event star despite recent booking frustrations. His combination of power, speed, and intensity is genuinely rare. There aren't many performers in WWE history who've combined his size with his athletic ability and explosive offense. Bron hit a series of suplexes on Eric that had the crowd chanting appreciatively, recognizing they were watching something special even in the context of a house show that wouldn't be broadcast nationally. But the War Raiders' experience and coordination became evident when they managed to cut off Bron's momentum and isolate him in their corner, working their trademark double-team offense that's made them so successful as a tandem. The heat sequence, where Bron was isolated and systematically worn down by the War Raiders while Bronson stood on the apron, unable to help, lasted approximately 7 minutes and demonstrated both Bron's selling ability and the Raiders' tag team psychology. This wasn't just two big guys beating up another big guy. This was strategic targeting of Bron's previously injured areas, selling the legitimate injury that had sidelined him during championship unification. This was cutting off the ring to prevent tags. This was everything that makes tag team wrestling work when executed by teams who actually understand the format. The crowd's investment grew as they waited for the hot tag to Bronson, understanding that when that tag happened, the momentum would shift dramatically. The hot tag came around the 15-minute mark, and Bronson Reed's entrance into the match as fresh competitor against exhausted opponents created exactly the explosive shift in momentum the crowd had been anticipating. Bronson is genuinely one of the most impressive big men in wrestling when given the opportunity to showcase his full arsenal. He has power that's expected given his size, but he also has agility and aerial ability that shouldn't be possible for someone his size. The tsunami splash from the top rope, his signature finishing move, is legitimately breathtaking when executed properly because of the height and impact involved. Bronson hit that move on Ivar approximately 17 minutes into the match, but Eric broke up the pin attempt, preventing what seemed like certain victory. What followed was chaos that showcased all four men's abilities. Bron recovered enough to re-enter and hit a spear on Eric. Bronson delivered another series of devastating strikes to Ivar, and the match broke down into the kind of all four men in the ring brawling that technically should result in disqualification, but that house show referees tend to allow because it's exciting and fans enjoy it. The referee's leniency created an environment where the match felt less constrained by rules and more like a genuine fight between two teams determined to prove dominance. The finish came around the 21-minute mark when Bron and Bronson, showing surprising coordination for a team working together for presumably the first time, hit simultaneous big moves on both War Raiders. Bron's spear on Eric while Bronson hit a splash on Ivar. Bron covered Eric while Bronson physically prevented Ivar from breaking up the pin, and the referee counted 3. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed had defeated the War Raiders in what was legitimately an excellent house show main event that delivered everything fans in attendance could have wanted: physicality, drama, near falls, and a decisive finish that made the winning team look dominant. But here's where the story transcends good house show match and becomes something with potential broader implications. As Bron and Bronson celebrated their victory in the ring, as the War Raiders rolled out to regroup and nurse their injuries, Paul Heyman appeared at the top of the entrance ramp. His presence at a house show was highly unusual. Heyman typically only appears at televised events or premium live events given his status and the value WWE places on his appearances. His presence in Bridgeport suggested either that he was traveling with the live event tour for some reason, or more likely, that this post-match appearance was specifically planned to create content that would be captured and distributed through social media channels, even though it wouldn't appear on traditional television. Heyman walked down the ramp slowly, deliberately, creating anticipation about his intentions. Was he there to congratulate Bron despite their recent tensions? Was he scouting talent for some new iteration of the Vision? Was he there to antagonize both men as he'd done on recent television? The answer revealed itself when Heyman entered the ring and addressed both Bron and Bronson directly, though without a microphone his words weren't clearly audible to most of the audience. However, fans with seats close to the ring and videos captured on phones have since been shared on social media, allowing reconstruction of what was said. According to these accounts, Heyman's pitch was straightforward. "Gentlemen, what I just witnessed was two of the most physically dominant performers in WWE working together with surprising effectiveness against one of the best tag teams in the company. Bron, you and I have complicated history, and I understand why you're frustrated with how the Vision situation developed. Bronson, you've been used as a monster to make other people look good rather than being positioned at the level your abilities justify. But what if I told you that together, with proper guidance and strategic positioning, you could be unstoppable? Not as the Vision, that name is tainted and that concept failed. But as something new. Something more focused. Something built around pure dominance rather than manipulation and mind games." The pitch was classic Heyman. Identifying genuine grievances that both men have, offering solutions through alliance with him, positioning himself as the strategic mind who can unlock their potential. Bron's reaction, visible in the videos though his words aren't audible, showed conflicted body language, interest in what Heyman was proposing mixed with residual anger about how he'd been used previously. Bronson's reaction was more difficult to read, his massive frame and typically stoic expression not giving away much about his internal calculations regarding Heyman's offer. The second critical question, was this a legitimate pitch for a new faction or alliance, or was Heyman working an angle that would pay off on television in ways we haven't seen yet? The answer wouldn't become clear until the following week's Raw, but the speculation immediately began on social media among fans who had been at the Bridgeport show or who had seen the videos circulating online. The general consensus seemed to be that WWE was testing audience reaction to a potential Bron-Bronson pairing under Heyman's guidance, using the house show as a low-stakes environment where if the chemistry wasn't there or the crowd didn't respond positively, the entire concept could be quietly dropped without having wasted television time or having created storyline complications that would need to be addressed. But the crowd reaction visible in the videos was generally positive. Fans seemed intrigued by the pairing and excited about what a Heyman-led power stable could accomplish. The physical dominance that Bron and Bronson represent, combined with Heyman's verbal skills and strategic acumen, creates a compelling combination that addresses weakness each component has individually. Bron has been criticized for his promo work not matching his in-ring intensity, a weakness Heyman could compensate for through his advocacy. Bronson has been positioned inconsistently, sometimes as unstoppable monster and sometimes as someone who loses to established other performers, a problem that Heyman's strategic booking influence could potentially address. And Heyman has been somewhat adrift since the Vision's collapse, his relationship with Brock Lesnar being complicated and his other recent clients either being injured, Bron, or having rejected his guidance, others who left the Vision. An alliance serves everyone's interests while creating natural storylines and conflicts with the various enemies Heyman has accumulated. The aftermath continued with reports that backstage at the Bridgeport show, Bron and Bronson were seen in extended conversation with Heyman and with WWE management representatives, suggesting that whether or not a formal alliance was being established immediately, discussions were definitely happening about future directions for all three. The timing would be crucial. Royal Rumble is just weeks away, and both Bron and Bronson are logical entrants in the Royal Rumble match itself. Having them work together in that match, perhaps helping each other eliminate competitors and positioning themselves as the dominant team everyone else needs to unite against, would be a natural way to establish their alliance while also creating compelling drama in the Rumble match itself. The third question, and this one has massive implications for WWE's tag team division and power structure. If Bron and Bronson do form an alliance under Heyman's guidance, What does that mean for their individual singles ambitions versus potential tag team championship pursuits? Bron has been explicitly focused on singles championship opportunities and main event positioning, which suggests he wouldn't be interested in tag team wrestling as anything more than temporary alliance of convenience. Bronson similarly has been positioned as a singles competitor rather than as tag team wrestler. But WWE has historically struggled to create genuinely intimidating and dominant tag teams in recent years, with most teams either being thrown together temporarily or being positioned below singles stars in the overall hierarchy. A team of Bron and Bronson working together would immediately be the most physically imposing tag team in WWE, creating fresh matchup possibilities and potentially elevating the tag team division through their involvement. The challenge would be balancing their singles ambitions with tag team positioning in ways that don't damage either aspect. The most successful models historically have been factions where members could compete in both singles and tag team competition, depending on circumstances, the Shield being the obvious example, where Roman, Seth, and Dean could work as a three-man unit or in tag team combinations while also maintaining individual championship pursuits. A Heyman-led faction with Bron and Bronson as the core could operate similarly, with both men being threats in singles competition while also being available to team together when situations warranted it. The final question connects everything together. Was the Bridgeport House Show match and post-match Heyman appearance the beginning of something significant that will reshape WWE's power structure? Or was it a test that WWE will ultimately decide not to follow through on? The answer won't be definitively known until we see what happens on subsequent television broadcasts, but several factors suggest this was more than just a random house show occurrence. The specific planning required to have Heyman present at a house show, the quality of the match itself suggesting WWE wanted to see if Bron and Bronson could work together effectively, the timing just weeks before Royal Rumble when new alliances and storylines need to be established, and the immediate social media buzz generated by the appearance all point toward this being a trial balloon that WWE was serious about potentially implementing. If the alliance does move forward, it creates immediate storyline possibilities. Bron and Bronson targeting the tag team championships while also being threats in singles competition. Heyman using his newly reformed power base to antagonize CM Punk, who he's been feuding with verbally. The potential recruitment of additional members to create a faction rather than just a tag team. Conflicts with other power-based performers like Bobby Lashley or other dominant figures who would view Bron and Bronson as threats to their positioning. The storyline options are numerous and varied, which is exactly what WWE needs heading into WrestleMania season when multiple compelling programs are necessary to fill out the card and create engaging television across 3+ hours of Raw and SmackDown each week. As the Bridgeport crowd filed out of the arena on January 4th, having witnessed an excellent house show main event that exceeded expectations for a non-televised event, and as social media began circulating videos of Heyman's post-match appearance and pitch to Bron and Bronson, the overwhelming feeling was anticipation mixed with uncertainty. Did WWE just test the waters for a new dominant faction that could reshape the company's power structure? Or was this a one-off house show angle that will be quietly forgotten as WWE moves on to other plans? The answer will define not just Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed's trajectories, but potentially Paul Heyman's role in WWE going forward and the broader landscape of alliances and factions that create the framework for compelling storytelling. January 4th in Bridgeport might have been just another house show, or it might have been the beginning of something that we'll look back on months from now as the moment when WWE's power dynamics fundamentally shifted and a new dominant force emerged from an unexpected alliance, forged not on television's grand stage, but in a 5,000-seat arena in Connecticut where genuine chemistry and potential were tested away from the pressure and scrutiny of live television broadcasts.